Here is the moment of truth in a 50-year conversation. Cardinal Víctor Manuel Fernández, prefect of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith, sat across from Father Davide Pagliarani, Superior General of the Society of St. Pius X. The meeting was described as cordial. The proposal on the table was historic, a structured theological dialogue with a precise methodology aimed at finally clarifying what full communion would require. But before any dialogue could begin, Cardinal Fernández laid down a principle that cuts to the very heart of the matter. He stated it plainly, orally, so there would be no misunderstanding. The documents of the Second Vatican Council cannot be corrected, not reinterpreted with fresh eyes, not discussed as if their meaning were still up for grabs, cannot be corrected. For the SSPX, this is the wall they have run into for decades. Since its founding by Archbishop Marcel Lefebvre in 1969, the Society has insisted that certain passages of Vatican II, particularly on religious liberty, ecumenism, and interreligious dialogue, cannot be reconciled with the perennial teaching of the Church. They have pointed to specific texts, Nostra Aetate on non-Christian religions, Dignitatis Humanae on religious freedom, Unitatis Redintegratio on ecumenism. These, they argue, are not simply pastoral suggestions, but doctrinal departures. And now the Vatican's doctrinal chief has drawn the line. These texts stand. They will not be corrected. The question is not whether they can be changed, but how they are to be received. But here is where the story deepens and where the insight becomes personal for every Catholic trying to navigate this tension. In 2016, a very different voice emerged from the Vatican. Archbishop Guido Pozzo, then secretary of the Pontifical Commission Ecclesia Dei, gave an interview to the German publication Christ und Welt that sent shockwaves through traditionalist circles. He was asked directly, must the SSPX accept every declaration of Vatican II, including those on religious liberty, ecumenism, and interreligious dialogue, as a condition for reconciliation? Archbishop Pozzo's answer was nuanced. He explained that different documents of the Council carry different doctrinal weight. Some are dogmatic constitutions, others are declarations, decrees, pastoral orientations, and then he said something remarkable. Documents like Nostra Aetate, Unitatis Redintegratio, and Dignitatis Humanae, he stated, are not doctrines regarding belief, nor are they definitive statements. Rather, they are suggestions, instructions, or orientational guidelines for pastoral practice. He added that these pastoral aspects can be discussed for further clarification after the canonical recognition of the SSPX. Do you see the tension? In 2016, a Vatican official suggested that these documents were not doctrinally binding in the same way as defined dogmas, and that discussion could continue even after reconciliation. But now, in 2026, another Vatican official states that the Council's texts cannot be corrected, a phrase that seems to close the very door Pozzo had left ajar. Which is it? Are these documents negotiable or not? Can they be discussed and clarified, or must they be accepted without qualification? The SSPX's own communiqué after the February 12th meeting reveals that Cardinal Fernández did offer dialogue about the Council, its interpretation, the degrees of adherence required by different texts, but the oral statement that the texts cannot be corrected suggests a red line. You can discuss how to understand them, you cannot discuss whether they are right. This matters because the stakes are not abstract. On July 1, the SSPX has announced it will consecrate new bishops. Bishop Bernard Fillet and Bishop Alfonso de Galarreta, the two surviving bishops from the 1988 consecrations, are expected to perform the rites. The Vatican has warned that such an act would constitute a decisive rupture of ecclesial communion, schism, with grave consequences for the fraternity as a whole. Father Davide Pagliarani has returned to his council. A response is expected within days. He has renewed the Society's desire to continue its work in what it calls an exceptional and temporary situation for the good of souls. But the Vatican's precondition is clear: suspend the consecrations or there is no dialogue. For the rest of us watching from the pews, this is not merely a canonical dispute. It is a question about how the Church understands its own recent past. If the Council cannot be corrected, what does it mean to interpret it faithfully? If pastoral documents are not doctrine, how binding are they? And if a path to unity requires accepting texts that some believe contradict tradition, what kind of unity is that? These questions do not have easy answers, but they are the questions that will determine whether July 1 brings a new bishop or a new breach.